G'day guys, my name's iRide Taz and this is the new iRide Taz ride. It's an XVS 1100A. Some of you guys might know it as a Dragstar, some of you might know it as a V-Star. In Australia it's known as a V-Star, and it's the 1100 Classic. These guys come in two forms. You've got Classic and Custom. Classic has got the larger guards, more valance, more hugger look, and then the Custom's got the smaller guards and the slightly bigger front wheel. It ticks every box ultimately. It's got a number of quite expensive aftermarket parts on it that have been put on professionally. So you can see it's got the Cobra full pipes. They sound amazing. It's got the Huracan hypercharger, and these things get mixed reviews. Bottom line is that the V-Stars are meant to respond to them, and it just looks hell cool. Looks like a blower. Looks like sort of a GTHO Falcon or something like that. It's really cool. It's got all the aftermarket accessories on it. As I said, the Cobra pipes. It's got the Huracan hypercharger. It's got all the racks you could imagine. You could carry a small country on those racks, I think. Floorboards, heel toe shifter, aftermarket floorboards for the pillion. It's just an all-round cool looking bike. I can hear you guys screaming, why didn't you go to Harley? Why didn't you get a real bike? Bottom line is I've had a Harley Davidson and I had tremendous trouble with its reliability and performance, and ultimately I just wanted to steer away from Harley to sort of Japanese reliability and wanted a full-size bike. I didn't want anything that was Lambs approved. Not that I've got any problem with the XVS 650. It's a great bike, and Fat Cruisers is absolutely amazing and it sounds amazing, but I wanted a full-size bad boy bike, and this is what I ended up with, and I got it for a song, guys. It's a beautiful machine and I couldn't be happier with it. So guys, I did all my early riding on cruisers. So I've had V-Stars before. I know they're amazing bikes with tremendous sort of reliability and rideability. I've had V-Stars. I have had an XS 650. I've had Harley, and sort of ultimately from there for the last couple of years I've had naked bikes and the dual sport. So I just wanted to add a full-size cruiser to the stable. So at the moment the three bikes I'm running are the XVS 1100A, this one, the XR 250L Dual Sport, and the KTM Duke 390. So they're the bikes that you will see on my channel. So I took it for a reasonable test ride. So it not only the aftermarket pipes on it, but the Huracan hypercharger. I was pretty cautious that it had been jetted in the carbs for those modifications, and I didn't want it to run too lean and cause problems with it running lean and breaking up higher in the rev range, and it doesn't. Runs absolutely sweet as, like a top. Unfortunately, I've never ridden V-Star 1100 stock, so I don't know what advantage the hypercharger and the copper pipes have given it, but it certainly gets along, and it's got mountains of torque, absolutely bucket loads of torque. It's reasonably loud bike. It's certainly not the loudest bike I've owned. This is really manageable sound. It's very low. And so it sounds awesome, but it's not too intrusive on longer rides. Pickup is certainly really nice. I mean, it's cruiser, it's not going to be the fastest bike in the world, but with that torque and all the power is so low down in the rev range. It's all the power. I think standard there 65 horsepower, and I don't know exactly, but I've heard anything up to 85 Newton meters of torque. So it certainly responds when you twist the throttle. Being a heavy lump of a bike that it is, it holds the road really nicely. Not going to be blowing all over the road like you are on the Duke. So braking is actually quite exceptional. This is easily the best braked cruiser I've ever ridden, and a lot of it comes down to the fact that it's got twin rotors, twin pot calipers, so it pulls up surprisingly well. Doesn't dip too hard when you plant the front brakes. It's also got a rear disc, which is nice. So it pulls up really, really well. Makes it much more responsive to ride. You can give it a little bit more spirited ride through these back roads, because you've got that ability to pull up. Physically, the bike is barely bigger than an XVS 650. So it's physically roughly the same size as, say, Fat Cruiser's bike, but it's got the 1100 engine in it. Better brakes. So for a small guy like me, still very manageable bike. I don't feel that the bike is too big, too heavy for me. It's a very low seat height, very low center of gravity. So it's actually surprisingly easy to move around. It really doesn't feel like it wants to topple over at all, which is nice, because I really don't think I'd be able to pick it up if it did. A shaft drive, you don't get any chain whip with all that torque. Supposedly shaft drive keeps the maintenance to a minimum. Bigger bikes are supposed to chew chains a bit. This is the first shaft driven bike I've ever had, but it's certainly very quiet. Very direct. So when you change into a lower gear, it's very direct. It's pretty happy to chirp the tyres if you're not rev matching. Good visibility in the mirrors. Nice plush suspension, particularly someone relatively small like myself. Suspension's not too hard, too stiff. Huge seat on it. That's probably my only minor criticism, is that the seat is very wide. It's made for someone a lot bigger than me. But that's alright. That's on my list of things for the transformation. So despite the big low revving V-twin, it's not particularly vibey. The mirrors, I can pick up details, not just proximity. They're not vibrating to a point where everything's blurry. And again, whilst I can feel it through the seat, footboards, handlebars slightly. It's certainly not unmanageable, it's not fatiguing. And you could forgive the vibration for just the awesome amount of sound that it blasts out when you twist the throttle. Absolutely gorgeous bike. Could not be happier with it. Nice to get away from the heartache and unreliability of my previous big cruiser, and hopefully I can turn over a new leaf with this beautiful metric cruiser. The XVS 1100 is a little bit of an undesirable model. The XVS 650 is the highest selling cruiser in Australia because it's Lance approved. But the 1100, for the 10-15 years it ran, wasn't particularly popular. And I would hazard a guess to say that rather than going a Yamaha cruiser of this size, most people would do what I did and jump into a Harley Davidson. Go with that raw sound and clever branding of the Harley, and not really give the V-Star a second look. So they're incredibly cheap for what you're getting. Huge amount of motorcycle for very little money. My name's Alright Taz. Hope you've enjoyed the XVS 1100 bike review. I'm checking the tyre pressure, guys. I ride out.